You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, General Hospital fans. We've got a comings and goings update. There's been another Molly Lansing Davis recast, and we're feeling like this is a red flag that Haley Pullos is gone for good. If you're not current on what is going on with this situation, we are about to catch you up. No doubt you saw on the Wednesday, July 19th episode, oh wow, look, Molly has a new face. Yes, she does. So we did a standalone video about Haley's arrest and the civil suit that has been filed against her by the guy that she allegedly severely injured, almost killed. So she is facing right now, Haley Pullos is facing 2 felonies, felony DUI and causing injury, and felony of being greater than 0.08% of alcohol in your system and causing injury, and then misdemeanor hit and run. Some other things have come out since we made our last video about this. The criminal report finally came out with her actual blood alcohol level, and it came out listed according to Entertainment Weekly as 0.15 or higher. That is right at double the legal limit. And a lot of people think that the legal limit is kind of low, but that test result's pretty high. So we had talked to a DUI lawyer when the charges first came out against us because we were very curious. What are we talking about? How long is she going to be gone from the show? She's pleaded not guilty, which is a standard opening move. But according to the lawyer we talked to, that he said that this is not, he said there's no, Michael Bialis, who's a California DUI lawyer, said there is no way to litigate her case, only to mitigate. What he's meaning is you can't fight this in court as her lawyer because there's way too much evidence, according to this expert. He's saying basically you have to mitigate the damage by just trying to get the lowest sentence possible. As for what sentence that could be, he says she is facing up to 6 years in prison. So if you were expecting Haley to be back at General Hospital, there's a lot of reasons that it's very unlikely, and I'll tell you why. So the DUI lawyer told us that in her case, there are what are called aggravating conditions, aggravating circumstances. Aggravating circumstances are things that make the court look at you more harshly. And while it's not an aggravating circumstance, I'm sure being a young actress who is flouting the law is already a strike against you because they may like to send a message. So the first aggravating thing is that there were both alcohol and drugs in her system, allegedly. In the civil case against her, they quote the police report that there were all these little, like airline, I guess, size bottles, little bottles of empty bottles of tequila in her car. The civil suit alleges she was drinking while behind the wheel, as in not had dinner and a glass of wine at a restaurant, but they said she was drinking behind the wheel. That's the allegation in the civil suit. And there were wrappers from marijuana gummies. So I'm sure that if there is a whatever drug test they have to run for the THC levels, but drugs and alcohol together are an aggravating circumstance. One is bad, both is really bad. Another aggravating circumstance is that she caused serious bodily injury. If you have a DUI and you're busted, but you don't almost kill someone, they're going to be more lenient. But when you almost kill someone, so just to recap, because some websites have this wrong. They were saying that she swerved to avoid and crashed into this guy. Not true. The second thing that's not true that's being reported is that her car jumped over the freeway barrier and that's how she hit someone head on. Also not true. Here's what happened. So she was drinking marijuana edibles, all that. Allegedly, she's driving down the road. She hits a car, a parked car. And that's where the misdemeanor hit and run comes in. She hits this car and then makes the conscious decision to keep driving. She keeps driving. She drives up to the interstate in Pasadena. She gets on to the freeway going in the wrong direction. So she's heading into oncoming traffic that at like 1:30 in the morning is going at about 60. And the car in front of her victim, her alleged victim, swerved out of the way. so he wouldn't hit her, and that put her in the position to slam head on into the other guy. They had to cut them both out of the car. And that guy had to be Courtney Wilder, I think is his name. He's like 23. He had to be taken to the hospital, multiple surgeries, according to the civil suit. Meanwhile, another aggravating circumstance is her behavior at the scene and at the hospital. When the firefighters were checking her for injuries after they cut her out of her car, okay, she is telling them to keep her hands off her $400 effing shirt. That is part of the police report. It's part of the civil suit, okay? Then at the hospital, she got aggressive with doctors trying to provide her care, and they had to sedate her. That aggressive behavior, the lawyer told us, is another aggravating circumstance. So, generally, the lawyer told us that he doesn't see how, he told us he doesn't see how she's going to avoid prison time. So I'm going to tell you the timeline real quick. April 29th was when this happened. May 11th, she released a statement saying, "Unfortunately, I was involved in an automobile accident and I'm doing okay, but I'm going to need a little time to recover. I will be back as soon as possible." There's a few words in here I take umbrage with. The first is involved in an automobile accident. She was the instigator of this car crash. Calling it an automobile accident when if you deliberately get behind the wheel while intoxicated is not an accident. That's a choice. It's an on purpose. And the last thing is, "I'll be back as soon as possible." I highly doubt it. So, and this second recast ties into this timeline. So April 29th, it happened. May 11th, she made that statement. May 18th, she's out for Taco Bell with her dad, and then he drops her off at a pricey rehab in Malibu. May 22nd, holiday, Mia Kriegel starts in the role. June 6th, the guy whose car she plowed into, there's no question she plowed into the car. That's not up for debate. They have photos. They have her car. They cut her out, so the civil suit makes a lot of allegations, but the base facts of her crashing into him, there's photo proof. So June 6th, the victim that she harmed allegedly files his civil suit. June 16th, the DA's office in LA charges her with 2 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. June 20th, they had an arraignment, and July 27th is the preliminary court date. Usually the arraignment and the preliminary date, because she is in rehab right now, she doesn't necessarily have to be in court. So as to her being in rehab, sounds great, right? Like, oh, maybe she had a problem, all that. Sure. If she does have an alcohol problem, rehab is where she should be. However, what the lawyer told us, Bialis, he said that under California law, if you go to rehab, every day you spend in rehab is 1 day that can be applied to any possible prison sentence. He said, were she his client, he would put her in rehab and leave her there for 6 months to a year while trying to work out a plea deal where she spent the same amount of time in rehab that she's sentenced to, and then she can spend it all in rehab, and then they'll apply it as time served to her criminal sentence. That's the way California law works, which is a good deal if you can afford it, I guess. So her rep is not commenting to any of the press outlets that have asked her to comment. The LA DA's office said, "We are charging Haley Pullos with felony DUI causing injury," and that underscores the severity of this alleged offense. So the week of May 22nd, we had a holiday, Mia Kriegel in the role. She has a handful of credits. She's a young actress. GH was only her 6th gig. She's only been a professional actor since 2019. I suspect that they had to recast really fast, and they got someone who's available. She's a real cute little girl. A lot of people didn't like her in the part, and now she's gone from it. On July 19th, which means she began taping mid-June, we saw Brooke Anne Smith in the role. She has a much longer resume. She has 24 credits. She's been working for more than 2 decades in the profession. She had big parts on Awkward, which was a really great little MTV series, and in Tyler Perry's Too Close to Home. She was a series recurring. What is interesting is she's significantly older than both Haley Pullos and holiday Mia Kriegel, who she's replacing. Brooke Anne Smith, believe it or not, look at her on the next episode. She's 39. We just did little standalone video you might want to check out on our GH playlist about the ages of the actresses on GH. And Holiday Mia Kriegel's 24, Haley Pullos was 25. Brooke Anne Smith doesn't look like it. She looks like mid-20s, but she's 39. Just so you know, Kate Manzi, who replaced Lexi Ainsworth, who's 30, as Christina Corinthos, is 35. So now we've got 135, 139, and then Kelly Monaco is in her 40s. All right, we have one more comment to add, but if you haven't already, please reach down and click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our General Hospital comings and goings, spoilers, and other updates. So basically, my takeaway, my personal opinion, is that Haley got herself hurt under these circumstances that have resulted in felony charges, and General Hospital's casting office was left scrambling, and they hired Holiday Kriegel. I don't think they hired her with the intention of keeping her. Again, this is my theory. I believe they hired her as a short-term recast, and then I believe they began doing a serious search for a permanent recast. And I feel strongly that Brooke Anne Smith is a permanent recast because Haley Pullos, it's hard to fathom how she's going to come out of this without having to go to jail. And if she does manage to avoid jail by spending a lengthy time in rehab, that means she can't work anyway because she'll be in rehab. And then it's a problem, I think, for General Hospital to hire her even after this rehab stay, because it seems likely she's going to have to probably plead guilty to a charge because, as the lawyer said, you can't litigate this, you have to mitigate it. And a lot of fans of General Hospital are rightly indignant about them letting someone come back that has had an egregious DUI, allegedly. So I think it wouldn't go over well. It would be bad optics for GH to keep someone who has committed these actions if she is found guilty or pleads guilty. So let us know. What do you guys think of this new girl, Brooke Anne Smith? I mean, I think it takes more than one episode for someone to sink into a role. And I do think it's interesting that, you know, we have two recasts of Christina and Molly at the same time. Maybe it'll make it easier to stomach because it's kind of a whole new Davis girl dynamic. Let us know what you think in the comment.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.